Welcome into Up in the Rafters, a podcast brought to you this basketball season by our friends over at Johnny T-Shirt. Co-hosting this, I'm Taylor Vippolis, and this year I'm joined by a national champion, the most outstanding player of the Final Four, and a Carolina basketball legend, the ACC Network's Joel Berry. Joel, we have the Kentucky game to break down, but first, sad news out of Chapel Hill Monday. Eric Montross passes away after his battle with cancer at the age of 52. Montross played for Hall of Fame coach Dean Smith at UNC from 1990 to 1994, where he was the starting center when the Tar Heels won the 1993 national championship. And after his playing days, he served as the radio analyst for UNC game broadcast for 18 seasons and worked as the senior major gifts director for the Rams club. Tremendous loss for the Carolina basketball family. How do you kind of put into perspective what his loss means to you guys and the impact that he had on Chapel Hill as a community?
Yeah, when I saw that news this morning, I kind of just took a second to pause. One, just because just thinking about life in general, how you just never know what direction you'll end up going. And so I took a deep breath with that, but I started thinking about Montross, and I started thinking about like all the people that I've heard on his behalf that spoke about him. And there was never a bad word said about Montross. And you know what, I look at him as like just a big teddy bear. That's what he was, like huge human being. I mean, one of the biggest human beings you'll ever stand next to. And he was the most genuine, nicest guy you would ever meet. And he had done so much, not only for the basketball side of Carolina, but just, in general, the community of Carolina, especially when you talk about sports and what he had done. I mean, it was just terrific and amazing. And I think about someone, part of the reason why I had an opportunity was him standing and getting in front of people, wanting to give us scholarships to be able to progress our careers and what we were doing. And he was the mediator for that. So, my thoughts and prayers goes out to his family. Very sad day. But I know everyone is smiling because of how great of a guy he is and how genuine he was to everyone.
Yeah, it's been great to see the outpouring of love that people have shared with stories from him. And I think you hit it best, where anybody who knew him doesn't have a bad word to say about the person that Eric Montross was. And, he was a great basketball player for Carolina, but the sentiment coming out of Chapel Hill is that he was a better person than the national champion basketball player he was. And yeah, would also like to extend my thoughts and prayers out to his family, and just a tough time that they're going through this holiday season without him. But getting back to the basketball, Carolina loses to Kentucky in the CBS Sports Classic, 87-83 from State Farm Arena in Atlanta. What were your biggest takeaways watching that game?
Well, my biggest takeaway as the clock was running down, I just started thinking about the game in general and how, with all of the mistakes and bad plays that were made, Carolina still had a chance, which was crazy. And I thought the one play that really kind of summed up how the night was going when Jalen Withers and I believe it was Harrison Ingram, like both went for the rebound, both trying to be aggressive, trying to make a play for their team, and they just fumbled the ball. I thought that was a difference maker, just because that could have turned the game around in the latter half of the game. But I think that just kind of summed it up, was just like those little mistakes that could have made the difference. Really, it had an impact on the game. But overall, I love the way that they competed. Obviously, it was a great opportunity that was missed. But when you look at it from a positive standpoint, I think there are a lot of things that are fixable and that they can learn from. But overall, it was a very competitive game, and I was just glad to see them compete against a team that will be there at the end of the year.
Yeah, Kentucky out-rebounds Carolina by 10. UNC gives up 18 offensive rebounds, 15 second chance points to the Wildcats, and you lose the game by 4, and that's the difference right there, just losing on the glass by that wide of a margin. Why do you think Carolina struggled so much with the physicality that this game had to offer?
Well, I think Kentucky's size was a little overwhelming. I mean, in pretty much every position, they were outsized. And Kentucky's athleticism, that young athleticism, kind of wore down Carolina at times. But I think it's more of just the will and effort to want to rebound. That isn't anything that, when you talk about mechanics or technicality, that's just the will of wanting to stick your nose in there and wanting to rebound. And coaches always talk about guards getting there and rebounding. And I thought RJ did his part. He had 7 rebounds and led the whole team in rebounding, which was crazy. But I just think the athleticism and the size difference really, really had an impact on Carolina.
You mentioned that rebounding is a lot of want to and like will and the heart side of basketball. Hubert Davis said after the UConn game that he was going to make sure his team worked on rebounding, and they still come out this game where he said, I guess we kind of have to go back to the drawing board to figure out what we have to do. How do you work on rebounding from a practice standpoint and from a preparation standpoint?
Well, what Coach Williams did when we weren't rebounding, it would be if someone forgot to box out, Coach Rob would raise his hand on the sideline and we would have to run. And so, I'm not sure what took place in practice, but something has to change, because you can't allow each and every game to be dictated by being out rebounded. You can't have those, especially on the offensive side of the ball. You can't give teams extra possessions and extra shots. And so to work on that, you got to put something around it that's getting your players to buy in, to realize how important that is. And whether that be running or something, coaches have different things that they want to do to sort of penalize their team, if you will, for not boxing out, for not, sticking your nose in there rebounding. But I think there has to be something, because you don't want this to turn into a habit, and now you're later down the road trying to figure this out. So whatever it is, they gotta go ahead and nip it in the bud now before it becomes a problem later on.
Yeah, RJ Davis, you mentioned, was the team's leading rebounder with 7, and he only had 1 in the second half. So it wouldn't have taken much to overtake him as the team's leading rebounder. And I think the Cormac Ryan addressed it in the post-game press conference with RJ Davis, where it's like, this is kind of a team thing. We all have to be better. We can't just have RJ, the smallest player on the court, leading the team with rebounds. And I think the rebounds is something that the rebounding is something that for sure has to be addressed, but also the turnovers that Carolina had. Carolina had 17 turnovers. In his press conference, Hubert Davis said that turnovers are usually the result of either carelessness or selfishness. And he didn't think it was selfishness on Saturday, but instead he thought guys were pressing from being so hyped up.
Yeah.
What did you see with Carolina and their ability to take care of the ball, or I guess not take care of the ball?
Yeah, I totally agree with Coach Davis on just being amped up. I thought they came out, just the two that stick out to me was Harrison Ingram was on got a closeout, and I mean had an easy drop off to Armando for a dunk. Or if they didn't step up, he had an easy layup at the basket, and that was a turnover. And then you had Cormac Ryan, which Coach Davis said, and you said, it wasn't them being selfish, because all of the turnovers were them trying to make a play for someone else, or at least majority of them. Cormac Ryan tried to advance the ball ahead to RJ Davis, and it just ends up hitting the ref and going out of bounds, which the ref needs to move out of the way. We're trying to run down the sideline, man. But I it's just being able to value the ball, and that's something that you can also work on in practice, which we did as well. We had a certain amount of turnovers, and then once we got the turnovers, anything after that certain turnover, you're getting on the line running. So That's why I said I look back at this game, and those are fixable things, being able to have the effort to go in there and rebound, and then being able to take care of the ball, valuing each possession, because in a game like this, the margin of error, we talked about that in previous podcasts, the margin of error is small in college basketball, and you can't just give possessions away, especially when you have an opportunity to go and score. So, you want turnovers to be where they're not, not selfish turnovers, somebody just over dribbling. So that's why I said these things can be fixed. But you want to go ahead and fix them right away and work on them now before they hinder you later on.
And one of the problems Carolina has been having the past couple of games, at least, is Armando Bott is so high up on team scouting report at this point in his UNC career that teams are finding ways to take him out of the game plan and make him a lot less effective than we've seen him at times, where he struggles against Kentucky. He has 6 points. He has 9 points and 6 turnovers. What can Carolina do to try to get Armando Bott going to where in a game like this, it doesn't feel like he's just not out there?
Well, I would challenge Armando to speak up to his teammates to get him the ball. When he's running down the court, sometimes I just pay attention to him because I want to see how he is posting up and, where is his defender when he is posting up. And Taylor, I will tell you, a lot of the times the defender is on his back. And I mean, he literally has like two feet in the paint right by the circle to where it can be a catch and just turn over the left shoulder for a layup. So I would challenge him to speak up to his teammates. Hey, when you see North Carolina and you see my number 5, get me the ball. And he has, he has the right to do that because he is a leader on his team, number one, but he has put in the work and he has the pedigree to do that to his teammates. And a lot of the times they're not throwing the ball to him. And those are easy baskets where he can get himself to the free throw line, be able to have some easy layups to where now the double teams are ineffective because I'm just catching and I'm literally going up for a jump hook. And I just see that I've seen that over the last couple of games, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed. Is getting the ball, even if it's just throwing the ball down there and getting the ref's eyes to see, like, okay, they're fouling him, and then now those fouls accumulate. You get into the bonus a little bit earlier, but also you get one of your best players going. For him to only have 4 field goal attempts, I just really think that's unacceptable with the type of player he is and how dominant he is.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that the 4 field goal attempts, it's almost like you have to do a double take looking at the box score because it wasn't really like he was in foul trouble or anything. I know he finished with 4 fouls, but he still played 31 minutes and to get 4 field goal attempts from one of your best players, it does feel like they need to do something to kind of relight that spark under him and have him playing at that All-American level that I think a lot of fans thought they would get for the entire year with somebody like Armando Bott. And one of the other things we talked about where Carolina needed to improve heading into this Kentucky game was the defense. And obviously the defense doesn't finish a lot of these possessions off when you're giving up these offensive rebounds. But we also talked about how teams are able to kind of hunt mismatches with this Carolina team at times where Carolina basically forced to take Elliot Cadeau off the court because Kentucky is hunting him and getting him in the post. What did you see from Carolina defensively in this matchup, knowing how much of a point of emphasis we've been talking about that the defense does have to get better?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of switching off the ball. But I'm not the coach, so I don't make the decisions. But I just think sometimes they can get caught up in switching. And when you really don't have to switch, and then all of a sudden now you have, Elliott on someone you don't want him to be on, and now you're having to adjust. And that can be tough. Like in the last, it was, I think Kentucky was taking the ball out up under their basket, and sideline out of bounds, out of bounds underneath the basket. And it was like, I think it might have been 3 seconds on the clock. And they switched for no reason. And now they have RJ on a, 7-1, 7-2 Bradshaw. And he ends up getting the offensive rebound and gets fouled. And I was just looking at it. I'm like, man, that's like an opportunity where there's 3 seconds on the clock. You don't need to switch, because now they switched off and now they had a smaller player on a bigger guy. And so I just think at times, it might take a little bit more effort, but whenever you have a matchup and when you have certain people on certain guys, you want to be able to keep it and stick that as much as possible. So, I don't know, what the philosophy is and how that should be fixed, but it's hard, man, when you just switch off the ball and then they end up hunting out a mismatch and attacking it. It's hard to keep, a smaller guard on the floor when you're doing that, especially when you have 6'1" and 6 foot, at your 1 and 2 spots.
In this Kentucky matchup, over 50% of Carolina's points came from Cormac Ryan and RJ Davis, and Kentucky outscores UNC with bench scoring 36-14. I know the strategy from Carolina is a lot of their offense is going to be run through RJ Davis right now, and when Armando Baycott's out there and you have Harrison Ingram and Cormac Ryan. But do you think this team is lacking that scoring punch off the bench? And if so, like how can you kind of overcome that?
Yeah, I think they are, but I don't know if, I think they have enough guys on the court when you do bring in your bench to be able to get some scoring. So I like when Seth Trimble's in the game, like, for example, him going up against Reed Shepherd. Reed Shepherd was one of those guys that come off the bench and can light your team up. And I thought he did a great job on him defensively, just hounding him and not letting him get comfortable. I really do like Seth on the court. And I like Jalen Withers on the court as well. I think he brings athleticism that Carolina needs. And so I really do think they have enough scoring to be able to combat, not having, or enough weapons, rather, to combat, not having that really bang coming off the bench, being able to score the ball. And so, that's just still part of the early season, trying to figure out different lineups and guys that you can put together to where you still have enough scoring out there on the court to be able to supplement not having that big bang coming off the bench. But I really do think they need to find some ways to get, in particular, Jalen Withers out on the court and see how they can utilize him a little bit more.
Yeah, when you're looking at, I know plus minus isn't the end all be all stat for basketball, and there's a lot of times where different lineups affect whose plus minus is what. But when you do take into account the plus minus from this Kentucky game, their leaders were Jalen Withers was a plus 13 when he was out there in his 19 minutes, and then Seth Trimble was second on the team with a plus 10 in 16 minutes. And when you lose by 4, that's a pretty sizable window where Carolina was able to win in the minutes those guys were on the court. But
yeah,
quick break to remind everybody about our friends at Johnny T-Shirt. If you're going to be in Chapel Hill, you can visit Johnny T-Shirt on Franklin Street. And if not, no worries. You could visit them online at johnnytshirt.com. Johnny T-Shirt has all the Carolina apparel you could possibly want this basketball season. They've got the hats, the T-shirts, the jerseys, the cold weather gear, you name it, they've got it. And it's great people and great customer service from our friends over at Johnny T-Shirt. And don't forget, Inside Carolina premium subscribers save 10% off their orders. Joel, I think one of the biggest bright spots from this Kentucky game, outside of just the overall fight that I think this North Carolina team shows, which is I think their fight alone and their ability to scrap back into games. I think when you get into conference play, it's going to win this team a lot of games. But outside of that, Cormac Ryan scores 20 points on an efficient 8 of 12 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3. What did you see from Cormac?
Yeah, when you're in the shooting slump, you just gotta keep shooting. And I think when he was going through that slump, he was taking the right shots, taking the shots that were in rhythm within the offense, nothing that was, outrageous or a crazy shot. So I thought he stuck with it, and this is what ends up happening. And even Calipari said it. He was like, the number 3 guy comes in and he's not shooting the ball, and then all of a sudden he's making them. So I really do think that seeing him take this next step and getting out of that slump is beneficial for Carolina. Moving forward, they can build off of this momentum, and he can build off of this momentum. But having the 3-point ball will be huge for them. And I think most importantly, having him getting going is something that they will need, especially going into conference play or even this next game against Oklahoma. I think they, just getting him going was like, when you talk about, I think they still have some other pieces that need to get going. As I said, Jalen and, figuring out Seth. But when you talk about another piece in the puzzle that needed to be put in there, I think Cormac was that guy that needed to get going. So to be able to see him knock down some of the shots that he did was definitely a bright spot.
In your career, when you went through shooting slumps and you had a breakout game like this, did you kind of have that mental switch flip where you're like, okay, now I'm about to get hot, and when you do have a hot game like that, how do you kind of carry it over into the next game?
Yeah, it's really like it's trying to get over that mental hump, because you get so far down in a slump. I mean, sometimes you start shooting the ball and it's really not even shooting. It's almost like trying to guide the ball in there, like you're trying to get, trying to shoot a layup. You're just trying to easily get it in there, and then it just turns into a mess. So when you finally like get over that hump, it's like the light clicking on. It's like, okay, now I'm ready to go. And you saw him not only just in the way he was knocking down shots, but it was the demeanor, the way he was sticking his chest out, that's how you could tell that somebody's coming out of a slump and getting into that confidence. But the last thing you want to do is stop shooting. And I thought that, he stuck with it. But yeah, man, just getting that confidence. And when you finally start seeing a couple of those balls go in, man, you're like, okay, I got my swagger back. And I think he does. So hopefully this continues to be the norm for him moving forward.
I thought it was interesting too with Cormac, where Carolina opens the game and their first look is trying to get him. They're running an action to get him an open 3, and he misses the 3. But what do you think that does for a player when you start a game and you're going through the shooting slump, but your team is running actions for you? They're trying to get you involved. They're showing that confidence in you.
Yeah, because when you walk around sometimes, or being around the guys and the coaches, players are aware. You're aware that, like, man, things aren't going well for me right now. And you can kind of feel like, you're taking a back seat. Like, you realize you're important to the team, but you just don't feel like you don't feel there. You know what I'm saying? So like Carolina coming out and doing that, it, like, people don't realize it, and it's hard for you to realize it, but it does wonders for a player to know that, like, after all that I've been through, after, not coming into this game shooting 25% from the 3-point line, coach comes out and he runs a play for me. Like, that gives you confidence. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I am an important part of this team. I might be in a slump, but I'm still important to what we are doing, what we are trying to accomplish. So it means the world. And I think that's, Coach Davis trying to play with his psyche a little bit, helping him realize, like, look, man, we need you. We're sticking with you. We know what you can do. You're a sharpshooter. Keep shooting the ball. By the way, let's run this play. Shoot the ball. Keep shooting, man.
And we talked about the heart and the fight this team shows, and nobody demonstrates that better than somebody like RJ Davis, where he's the team's leading scorer. He goes for 27 points. He's the first player to lead UNC in scoring in 6 consecutive games since Justin Jackson did it in 2016, 2017, where he was the ACC Player of the Year. I think Carolina's best offense right now looks like whenever the ball is in RJ Davis's hands, and the Carolina fan is at their most confident when he's shooting the ball. What about RJ has impressed you the most during this run, and then the game against Kentucky specifically?
Well, I tell you what, him and Justin, they don't pass the ball. So I'm just playing. No, Justin was an amazing player and deserved ACC Player of the Year. And RJ is playing at that level right now. But he's just playing with a different type of confidence, man. And I think a lot of it has to do with him just playing with a chip on his shoulder. But I just think, he's taking that next step in his game. And when you look at his stat line, it's, 8 for 18. He's getting to the free throw line, 8 for 9 from the free throw line. Crazy to see him miss a free throw in the game. But he's just playing at a different level right now. And he's in that groove, and where every single shot you take, you think is going in. And now the fans are expecting every single shot that he takes is supposed to go in, and he's just playing with a different type of confidence. But that's the progression that you want to take in your career, and just seeing the way that he's playing, not just only making shots, but the way that he's playing with good pace, playing with good rhythm, coming off of screens, being under control, knowing when, to slow it down or when to get to the paint. He's just playing every facet of his game right now is just on rhythm, and just has a lot of confidence right now.
And you mentioned that missed free throw that RJ had. I don't know if you knew this, but he had 40 straight makes going into that, which was the second longest streak in UNC history. He gets fouled going up. He hits the free throw to tie Jeff Lebo's 41 in a row from back in 1989. Lebo. And of course. Do you think he knew in the back of his mind, like, if I make this is the record, and Lebo's sitting right over there?
Yeah, I wonder if someone told him that before the game, but that's the problem. You can't tell people that. You just gotta let it be. And then when the streak is done, that's when you have to say, man, that was like, you could have passed Lebo right now. I know Coach Lebo. I know he's over there like, well, RJ, you were close, man. So
they'll be forever tied in Carolina basketball history. And maybe RJ will get back on another streak.
But, he still has time. It's a lot of season left, so maybe he'll get on another one. Yeah.
Before we wrap up, a big shout out to our friends at Congruity. Congruity is a North Carolina-based national coverage, local presence company with personal support straight from the Tar Heel State. Congruity is empowering small and mid-sized business owners with HR and payroll outsourcing, enabling you to grow your business while they take care of your greatest assets, your people. And they are doing it with top-of-the-line technology and services for every stage of your business's growth with a state-of-the-art online platform. Congruity, they are obsessed with customer service where they become part of your team. They do the heavy lifting, providing essential admin support with a single point of contact and support available on demand with services that are tailor-made for you, transforming your organization. Congruity has helped hundreds of businesses improve and enhance their day-to-day lives, level up your HR capabilities, save money, unlock game-changing growth. Visit congruityhr.com/Tar Heels to learn all about Congruity. Fill out a quick form to be connected to their consultants, and they'll give Inside Carolina listeners or viewers a payroll and HR assessment for free. That's congruityhr.com/Tar Heels. congruityhr.com/Tar Heels. All right, back to the episode. Carolina, next up for Carolina, they have the Jumpman Invitational in Charlotte against Oklahoma. This brutal stretch of games continues. No time to feel sorry for yourself losing to UConn and Kentucky in back-to-back games. Another top 15 team on the schedule. What have you seen from Oklahoma, and how does Carolina match up with the Sooners?
Yeah, well, the guards will definitely be at a premium in this game. There will be a lot of guard play. Oklahoma runs a lot of actions for their guards. I'm excited to see the point guard matchup. This is an Oklahoma team who they're still undefeated, right? I mean, as of right now, I think they're still undefeated. If not, they're a one-loss team that is really good. So it'll be up and down. Got
they're 10-0.
Yeah, they're undefeated. So this is an opportunity. You don't have time to wallow in your sorrows. You gotta put that last game behind you, and you gotta get ready for this matchup. And it's at 9:15, so you got to get your Red Bull in and be ready to go because it's a late tip off. This is another opportunity, man, to be better. I love what Coach Davis said about Dean Smith. He said a mistake is good when you recognize it, you admit it, you learn it, and you grow from it. And I think this is a time to grow from what they've learned and what they've recognized from that Kentucky game. And so this will be a high level game, and I'm excited. This will be another fast paced game. So it'll be a lot of exciting play in this game.
Yeah, at the time of the recording, Oklahoma is 7 in the polls, but they're number 19 according to Ken Palm, the 33rd adjusted offensive efficiency and the 8th adjusted defensive efficiency. So they kind of hang their hats on the defensive end of the court. I think one interesting thing for this game, at least when it comes to the neutral court sites, is Carolina plays UConn in MSG. They play Kentucky in Atlanta. I was at both of those games. They felt closer to road games than the neutral site games. Now Carolina gets this one in their backyard in Charlotte. How much do you think playing in Charlotte in front of what should be a heavy pro UNC crowd will do for this Tar Heel team?
Yeah, whenever you can get your crowd behind you, that's and get your fans behind you, that always gives you a little extra boost in what you're doing. Just being able to have, going to those neutral sites, going on the away games, you have to create your own energy. And because, you're hearing it from both sides, or you really don't get like an opportunity where it's, pro Carolina when you're at when you're at those neutral sites. So being able to have it in Charlotte, is basically you can consider it a home game. So, it'll be good to have the crowd behind them, but like I said, this is another opportunity for them to bounce back. You look at the losses. You got UConn, that's a loss. You got Kentucky, that's a loss. And I'm talking about previously. I know the Villanova game, but you're talking about two quality teams. Now you get to learn from those mistakes, and you get another chance to get a really good quality win and have an opportunity to do that. But being able to have that crowd behind you, man, is a big factor.
Playing in Charlotte, your backyard, will you be in attendance?
With the dead times in the schedule, man, it's just it's too late for the kids. You get out of there about 11, 12 o'clock.
9 is asking a lot.
Yeah, nine is asking a lot. We went last year against Michigan. It was the earlier game, so of course that worked out. But 9, man, I the kids, man, you gotta keep them happy, or they'll make you they'll make you irritable at times. So you gotta be ahead of the game. So no, we won't be in attendance.
I will be in attendance in Charlotte at that game. Joel will be in Charlotte, but watching from home. He'll be watching 9 p.m. tip-off against Oklahoma on ESPN. Joel, appreciate the time as always, and appreciate everybody watching and listening.
Yes, sir. Go Heels.